On today's show, we've got our 5 biggest questions facing this season's Ottawa Senators.
And we continue our organizational value rankings with 9 new players, including, finally, 2 goalies.
All that and more on today's Locked On Sens.
I'm Jake Sanderson.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Pillar up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. You can also follow us on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter, where we asked today what your biggest questions are facing the Sens. You can let us know there. And in the comments below, we'll read some of the tweets at the end of today's show. We're also on Instagram at lockedon.senators. You can find us everywhere you get podcasts, free and available on YouTube. Today is Tuesday, September 17th. And Pilsy, are you prepared for a Travis Green training camp?
I certainly am not prepared, although I've been hitting the Peloton a little more than usual lately, so I'm trying to get in preseason form as well, but I don't think I could last 10 minutes in a Travis Green training camp.
Well, the Senators are going to have their skate test later this week. First on-ice session will be Thursday. Tomorrow, the Sens will report for medicals, physicals, and I'd imagine that's when the media will start picking up. We've got a big interview for you on Friday. We'll save that in our back pocket, and we will get to our organizational value rankings this time of year, too, as we await the first training camp session, as well as the first preseason game, which is this upcoming Sunday evening in Toronto, 7 o'clock start. Really excited to finally see the big dogs out on the ice after a less than superb showing at the rookie tournament. And I don't even just say that from the players, but like the broadcast, we had that play-by-play in the third game that was just very Sabres oriented. They're like, hey, you guys are here. You want to just grab a mic and talk? Rob Ray was doing color commentary. Yeah. I know he does it for the Sabres, but it just felt like all of it was just a tease. It's like we're on the ice, we're wearing the jerseys, but it just didn't feel like Sens hockey. So I'm excited for the Senators to get out there. I know it's not going to be the A team. We're probably going to see Nikolai Kuhlman out there next Sunday, but Pilsy, it will be great to see real Sens hockey. However, with every new seasons bring a number of new questions. And this Ottawa Senators organization that has not made the playoffs in 7 years has a long way to go from where they finished last year, 7th last in the NHL, 25th, I believe, math guy in the standings. We need to get that up to the top 16. Playoffs have to be the goal for this Senators team. Pilsy, what is the number one question for you to allow the Senators, if they do this, they're likely going to make the playoffs?
Well, Ross, for me, the biggest thing that, maybe not the biggest, but a recurring theme that all Sens fans are very used to is getting off to a poor start and feeling like you're mathematically eliminated by the time December rolls around. So for me, I think the most important thing, you talked about it with the Travis Green training camp, get these guys ready to go, get them in shape, have them accountable. Accountability is what we've heard players, coaching staff, media, everybody talking about, and have them ready to start much better than they have the last, 5-6 seasons. So biggest question, can Travis Green have Ottawa in the mix by the end of November?
And it's such a low bar. In the mix by the end of November. We're not saying be top 3 in the division even at that point. Just please be better than they were last year.
And the year before that, and the year before that, and the year before that.
I thought we were going to alternate the year before that.
Oh, sorry. A year before that.
The year before that.
And the year before that.
Last year, the Ottawa Senators went 4-5 in 9 games in November with 2 regulation wins in those 9 games. So number one, can Travis Green have Ottawa in the mix by the end of November? We know that date, U.S. Thanksgiving, where I believe it's upwards of 80% of the teams that are in a playoff spot about 25 games into the season, will be in that playoff spot 82 games after the regular season. So that is number one. It's critical for Ottawa to get off to a good start, not only for the betterment of the team and banking those points for later on in the season, but this fan base is itching to hold on to something. And if they can't by the end of November, it is going to be a dark, cold winter in the nation's capital. Number two, Pilsy, we are going to go with goaltending. It could have been number one, but just the consistency of not being able to get off to a good start, I think vaulted that above the goaltending. But last year, their goaltending was so below NHL caliber that we're not even asking for Linus Ullmark to be in the Vezina mix. We're not asking for Anton Forsberg from 2 years ago, although that would be awesome. Just NHL caliber goaltending, Pilsy. Can the Sens get it?
That's why they brought in Linus Ullmark, Ross. And it's tough because every year it seems the Sens bring in a new goalie that's going to be the guy. And it hasn't worked, from the likes of Matt Murray to Cam Talbot to Eunice Corpusalo. All of them gone, failed experiments. But this, I swear to God, this one is different. We tried doing other little spin zones for the other ones, but Ullmark, it's not even a spin zone. It's just a matter of fact. If you take any of his seasons in his past history, those would be much better than what the Senators got last year. So I really think all Ullmark has to do is be average, and then Forsberg just needs to get back to being not below average. And this team is going to have so much more success because the way that the goaltending put the Ottawa Senators out of games almost immediately so many times last year, there's not much you can do when you're always playing from behind. So I think the goaltending is going to be a major factor. And I'm a big Linus Ullmark guy, Ross, so I don't have too many concerns when it comes to him keeping pucks out of the net.
Since the Ottawa Senators 2015-16 season, which was also, not coincidentally, Linus Ullmark's first season in the National Hockey League, Ullmark has had 5 years with a save percentage above or at .915.
Oh.
The Ottawa Senators as a team have had 3 goalies get to that mark. Craig Anderson in 15-16, .916. Craig Anderson in 2016-17 was a .926. And Anton Forsberg 2 years ago at .917. 6 out of the 9 belong to Linus Ullmark. So this goes back to his days in Buffalo, not just being a system goalie with one of the best defensive structures in the National Hockey League in Boston. Heck, maybe he's got some tricks of the trade from the Bruins that he can bring to Ottawa to allow them to stop running around and really allowing other teams to swap their offensive lines while they're attacking and have Ottawa in their own zone for extended periods of time. But at the end of the day, if Linus Ullmark can stop the first 2 shots of the game, it's already an improvement on what we saw last season. So goaltending, always important, but it takes on a special kind of importance when the team last year had the worst goaltending in the league, and it wasn't even close. The third biggest question for the Ottawa Senators, is this the year we finally see all of Tim Stützle, Josh Norris, and Shane Pinto together? Over the course of the 4 seasons since Pinto signed his entry-level contract, he was the last to join this group at the end of the COVID-shortened season. Get this, and I almost need to pause to allow this to have the emphasis that it deserves. 258 possible games, Pilsy, during that span. Stützle, Norris, and Pinto have only played 38 games together. That is mind-blowing.
It's insane, honestly. And when that's your number 1, 2, and 3 centerman, and you haven't had that stability down the middle, it wreaks havoc on the rest of the lineup. And we've seen firsthand how detrimental it is when 1 or, God forbid, 2 of those top 3 guys are out. This forward roster just can't sustain that. So we need to have at least, Ross, again, we're going to set the bar low here. I'm going to say 55 games of the three of them together. We need that at least. Otherwise, this team's going to be in trouble.
Like guys who have played top 6 centers for even as little as one game. Dylan Gambrell was in there for a game or two. You had guys coming in that just had no purpose.
Ridley Gregg.
Well, yeah, Ridley was probably put there way too early. Rourke Chartier being in the lineup because of it. Like the Sens have just had to do so much juggling because they're 3 cornerstone centers, all equivalent of first round picks because Pinto's the first pick in the second round, and now there's 32 teams. So these high picks, these core pieces need to play for the Ottawa Senators to have a great season. And we've got the stat right here. I said 38 games. Senators are 24-11-3 when all of those guys play. And that includes when Pinto just signed. So that was when they were young and inexperienced. You got to think that those 3 together and playing at their best give Ottawa a great chance for success this season. Okay, Pilsy, number 4.
Can Nick Jensen balance the Senators' defensive corps? Nick Jensen has a lot of expectations on him for a guy that if he wasn't traded for Jacob Chychrun and brought to the Sens, I don't think there'd be a lot of spotlight. Like, let's just say he ran it back in Washington. I don't think the Capitals fans are looking at Nick Jensen being like, can this guy balance our entire defense core?
No pressure.
But really all he needs to do is be the 4th defenseman in a top 4, which is sort of asking a lot, but not really. Like all he has to do is play smart, simple, responsible hockey and allow Thomas Chabot to thrive offensively. And Thomas Chabot is not known for his defensive attributes, which is fine. But if Nick Jensen can help support him and take some of that defensive responsibility away from him so that he can thrive offensively, that's going to be huge for this D-corps. Since Dylan DeMello left, no one has really been able to properly go beside Thomas Chabot, and we've seen what that does to the team.
Well, they've taken swings at Ron Hainsey, among others.
Yeah, no, and this is not Chabot slander. Don't get it twisted. This is not Chabot slander. It's more that the team has not been able to find the right partner for him.
Who else? Cody Golubath? Who else got roles next to Thomas Chabot?
Johnny Oduya?
Oh, yeah, we're rewinding the clock the wrong way. But yeah, Gabranson certainly was brought in for that type of role. But Thomas Chabot, to me, is the guy that's going to start with Nick Jensen. Not that that's a wild take, although I wouldn't mind seeing him back with Zub and throwing Jensen with Sanderson. I don't see a problem with that. Now, 3 seasons ago, and I understand that that's saying a lot, it was an amazing one for Nick Jensen. 21 points plus 32. Last year, just 14 points minus 9. So you're hoping that this isn't like a slow decline as he's aging. You're hoping that he's able to rebound and maybe get some fresh life. He's turning 34 years old in a matter of days, the 21st of September. And I want everybody to note, new dad strength. His wife, congratulations to the 2 of them, just had their 3rd kid. So we know there's a baby bump, and Brady Tkachuk hopefully is going to benefit from it as well. But Nick Jensen balancing the D-corps could be a huge factor into how this upcoming season plays out. And finally, number 5. Will Tim Stützle get back to above a point per game pace? Last year, we know the injuries played a role. He was hurt with his wrist early in the season, and that's a big reason why he scored 18 goals. He had way more than 18 chances to score. He just, how many times in the postcast, Pilsy, Tim Stützle couldn't finish tonight, but he looked so good, right? There were so many times where the feet were still there, the intelligence was still there, but he just could not shoot the puck harder than you and me at the outdoor rink at Manor Park. I think that changes this year. And Tim Stützle, we see, I don't know if he hits 40 goals. I know he got to 39 2 years ago, but he's 30 plus tucks easily.
Yeah, especially Ross when he improves on 1 power play goal in an entire season. That's really going to boost him. And that was the thing, Ross. In hindsight, it makes so much sense. Tim Stützle was doing anything to not shoot the puck last year.
Remember the 2-on-1 against Chicago where G was just like kept giving it back to him? He's like, shoot, dude.
Yeah. And it just got ridiculous. So now that wrist is all cleared up, I expect a big change here from Tim Stützle. And I don't think it's crazy to think that he can get back to 90 points this year.
Spin zone, credit to him for battling through and trying to play and not missing a whole lot of action because of it. Only 5 games, but at the same time, you almost wanted him to rest it, especially at the end of the year.
Exactly. Yeah.
But he's got the determination. There's no doubt about that. When you watch that kid play, he's got it in him, and it's going to be exciting to see, because I mentioned it when we posted the little clip, which we're doing on YouTube, the shorts. You can follow us on all our socials. We've got it there. It's a revenge tour for him, because a lot of the league looked at that contract. Senators fans banging the drum. What a steal. Locked him up a year ahead. Then he goes and has that 90-point year. Well, the contract kicked in, and then he scores 18 goals. So there's a revenge element, I think, at play here, where the league looks at Tim Stützle. There's cheap jokes being made all over the place. I think people are going to get the full value experience, hopefully at least this year, of Tim Stützle, who comes in at number 5 on our biggest questions surrounding the Ottawa Senators. So to recap it all, the biggest questions around the Ottawa Senators, Pilsy, I'll do 1 and 2. You bring us home from there. Can Travis Green have Ottawa in the mix by the end of November? And can Linus Ullmark and Anton Forsberg provide NHL caliber goaltending?
Number 3, is this the year we see all of Tim Stützle, Josh Norris, and Shane Pinto together? Number 4, can Nick Jensen balance the Senators' defensive core? And 5, will Tim Stützle get back to being above a point per game? I think all of those are attainable, Ross, if not most of them.
In the comments, let us know. Type in 1, yes or no, 2, yes or no. I want you to go through this list 1 through 5 and let us know what you think is the most likely to least likely thing that will happen. On the other side, I mentioned we asked on Twitter this exact same question at Sens Central. We'll read some of your best responses, and then we'll get back to our organizational value rankings. This is Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Mary J's. Mary J's is a locally owned cannabis dispensary in the Ottawa area. Started off with 3 best friends making a life-changing decision, and with hard work and dedication, they got 4 stores in the Ottawa area and a store in Cobourg. In the Ottawa area, you can check them out at Riverside South, Orleans, Greeley, and Russell. Mary J's offers the best and newest products in the market. They're adding new stuff to the menu every week to keep it fresh. They got everything you need, whether you're a rookie looking to dip your feet in, or you're a seasoned pro and you already know what you want and you want to be in and out of there quick. Mary J's has competitive pricing. In fact, guys, they're going to price match any store in Ottawa. That means you're guaranteed to get the best price around when you shop at a Mary J's location. And they got the best customer service by having friendly bud tenders who are always ready to help out. One of the owners, Dashy, diehard Sens fan, absolute beauty, is usually at one of the stores. So go say what up to Dashy. Pick his brain about the Sens and all the latest, greatest products that Mary J's has to offer. Check out their website and get on the loyalty card as well. Check it out today, guys. Mary J's.
Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network, and for good reason, too. At FanDuel, you can get all your props, player performance, and futures. I love looking at the futures before the regular season. You can bet on teams to either make or miss the playoffs. Right now, Ottawa is minus money both ways. Vegas says, we don't know either. We need those 5 questions to be answered before we can make a determination. If you believe the Senators will make playoffs, so it's minus 104. So if you bet 100 or 104, you'll make 100. So it's basically double your money if the Senators can make the playoffs. So you can go and check that out. FanDuel, it's the America's #1 sportsbook. And now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers, they can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel.com, download America's #1 sportsbook. Still so much to get to. We are in a packed week, packed month. Hockey's back. The show's back to 5 times a week. And quickly, we just want to say happy trails to Chris Weidman. Former Ottawa Senators draft pick, was on the 2017 team that got to the Eastern Conference Final. 291 NHL games, the last 2 seasons in Montreal. Unfortunately called shotgun for the worst taxi ride in history. He was a scapegoat because of it.
Yeah.
The infamous Uber video, but great vibes guy. A lot of people forget he won Best AHL Defenseman for the Binghamton Senators. And we just wanted to say happy trails to Chris Weidman. An impressive career for a guy who wasn't taken until 100th overall in the 09 draft.
Ross, you talk about him winning Best AHL Defenseman. I believe he also won Best KHL Defenseman too in the one season he was there. So AHL, KHL, he had that locked down.
Shout out to Chris Weidman on a very impressive career for an undersized defenseman, making it work. Okay, Pillsy, we said we'd get the people's thoughts on this. What are the biggest questions facing the Ottawa Senators? A lot of people just going with health. And I think that goes without saying, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy answer. Every single team, health is a major issue and question mark for them. So for the Senators, maybe more than others, just because of the key players that have had major injuries. So health, I think, is a fair answer.
And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm pulling up all of the tweets here coming up. Our guy Jamie just saying, it was last year one-off from Jensen, or did we just acquire another Hamonic type? Was goaltending really the only problem? And can the bottom six step up for goals if Josh Norris doesn't return to form? Brian 5 or 6 was just wondering what he's doing there. We appreciate you, brother. Julio, will the Gabriel Pizza promotion return? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I'm a big believer in eating before I go to the hockey game, but that's just my own personal take on the matter. I'm more there for the liquid diet when I walk into the CTC. Our guy Adam Newton saying the entire training camp and season, will they stay healthy? If injuries start piling up, he worries that the depth isn't there. Do you buy into the worry, or do you think they did a good job? We're going to get to a lot of the new acquisitions for Belleville that could be call-ups if health isn't going the Senators' way.
No, I'm still concerned because the major injury concerns are to players that aren't really replaceable. And I think that's where this team runs into problems.
Terry McGurran, what's the parade route? We'll get to that, buddy. But I'll tell you one thing. It's going by the canal for sure. Adam mentioning, will Travis Green be able to adjust the attitudes of 7 and 18 and some of the young guys? I think what Adam's getting at is there were certainly a number of moments last season where Brady and Timmy were clearly frustrated.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that Travis Green will tell you this, Steve Stais will tell you this, that comes from their burning desire to win. So I think if they're winning, all that will take care of itself.
Yeah, I agree. And a brand new coaching staff, I think, will change how they approach the game as well.
Agreed. Our guy AL, how's Norris going to look this season? I think we're going to get to that more when we do our X factors going into the season. This is more generalized as a, key top 5. I guess you could say we did in particular call out Tim Stützle to have a better year and wonder how Nick Jensen, but I think Norris is certainly an X factor, him and Linus Ullmark for this team to go. We'll wrap up here with Nick Moffat's got a laundry list of questions. So will Chabot have more balanced playing time? I think that's a good, fair question.
Yeah, and hopefully a balanced partner in Nick Jensen can allow Travis Green and the coaching staff to be able to get their ice time in a more appropriate range rather than Chabot just playing 28 minutes every night.
Noof, AJ, whole lot more, everybody, Sens Vader, it's all Josh Norris, right? Like, hey, how's this? AJ, how's Timmy going to respond to Yzerman thinking he's not worth his contract? I like that one too. You can go see the full list of answers. We appreciate everybody for engaging with us on Twitter at Sens Central. It means a lot to us that we are a part of your Senators routine. We're here day in, day out, just trying to make it a little bit better to be an Ottawa Senators fan. That's our goal, and we appreciate everybody for coming along with the ride. We want to get you all these great interviews, and year 5 of our organizational value rankings. So much fun. Let's get to that. And apologies are in order to Jamison Reese, Pilsy. Hand up. We completely forgot about him. So we're going to be doing our second 51st ranked player, but everyone's going to get pushed back. I told you yesterday, and we put it in the description, we're going to have our list. So you can go and see everything in a compact area. But shout out Jamison Reese. And he's actually higher on this list than any of the guys we're doing today.
Yeah, it wasn't a personal slight against Jamison Reese, just a minor
We got a Reese and a
mental
Roos.
overlaps.
A Reese, a Roos, and a Ross around the team. That's a lot.
Yeah, we just missed him. So
How
we'll get
about
to
me
him.
throwing myself into the mix there? I don't play for the team.
Not yet.
Roos and a Reese, though, footy. You got to be on your toes in Belleville this year, buddy. Love it. All right, organizational value rankings are next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day. All right, Millsy, we're back to our organizational value rankings. A reminder, you can follow us on Twitter at Sens Central. You can give us your thoughts on our list. Where did we go wrong? Where do you think that we're right? And who do you think should be in the very top tier? It's going to take us a while to get there, but it's worth the trip to the top of the mountain. The views are spectacular, and it will coincide with preseason hockey coming back to the Ottawa Senators airwaves, and we will be with you every step of the way. We're thinking about doing some sort of stream in the preseason because we want to almost use it as a reset for everybody to throw comments in and all that, but we'll have more information on that closer to the date. And of course, we're coming to Ottawa for the home opener, and we do have our plans intact. Pre-game at the Glebe Central Pub. Pre-game at the Glebe Central Pub. So you can get in there for free. And if you're driving to the game, whatever, responsibly, of course, you can welcome to join us at the Glebe Central Pub before. But for all of us sickos who are going to be enjoying ourselves in a number of ways, we've got the bus there for you. $17 round trip. You can get your tickets on the Glebe Central Pub website. Billsy, we've done this trip, the pilgrimage, many times, and it never gets old. It's always so much fun interacting with other Sens fans and having the wheels on the bus go round and round and knowing that the destination is the Canadian Tire Center. Nothing like it.
Yeah, I love the anticipation. Sue gets us there ASAP, so it's always a good time.
So good. Okay, always a good time on our organizational value rankings. You can see the full list in the link below. But for now, we are jumping right into it with number 51. Pilsy, the first goalie on our rankings. 51 is Vladimir Nikitin.
Yeah, our guy, Vladimir Nikitin, we had him on the show a little earlier in the year. Kazakhstan goalie. Just a goalie factory over in Kazakhstan. Vladimir Nikitin played with the Chilliwack Chiefs in the BCHL last year, and pretty decent season as far as a young goalie coming over. In 25 games, he had a 15-6-3 record, a 2.76 goals against, an 898 save percentage, a shutout. And Ross, I was banging the table to add an extra stat to our goalie graphics card. Goals. He did score a goal last year, but I couldn't. That's a battle I lost on the stat space here.
Do you think that the Senators goaltenders have the most combined goals in the organization? I should say active because I guess Marty Brodeurs in the Blues organization, but Ullmark scored a goal 2 years ago.
Yep.
And then Nikitin scored a goal last year in the BCHL. He got off to such a tough start last year, coming over the adjustment period, spoke no English, and I think that really impacted his performance. But as you saw him get more and more comfortable throughout the year, he was putting in a number more good performances. Now, I actually wish he had stayed in the BCHL. Instead, he went home, and you can never fault someone for trying to make some money. We don't know his situation, but we know that he signed a KHL contract for this season. Now, he has not played in any games with Beres Astana. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but it's the Kazakh team in the KHL. I'm hoping and assuming that he's going to get some work with the under 20 team or the MHL team, I believe it's called there. And really, the highlight of the season for Sens fans with Nikitin is that Kazakhstan will be in the World Juniors.
Yep.
They are in Ottawa in December. So that'll be a huge test because we know, and I think we've seen it year over year with like Slovaks and some other teams where they sometimes have good teams, but sometimes don't, where their goalie's making 50, 60 saves in a game. So Nikitin's going to have to be ready for that challenge. But for me, I'm just looking at him as a long-term project. He's just a little bit higher because he had some flashes where you're like, wow, this guy has so much raw potential that I think I see a little something here. But we're not going to be seeing him in Belleville, I don't think, for another 3 years. And then beyond that, like, this is a 5-6 year plan for Vladimir Nikitin.
Yeah, keep in mind he's only 19 years old. I think the biggest issue, Ross, and we'll wrap on Nikitin with this, is I think he's the third goalie on that KHL squad. Like Sens Prospects had a tweet saying that he only has had the opportunity to back up once in the 4 games that his KHL team has played. So he's quite a few steps away from action in the KHL. So we'll see how the season progresses for him.
7th round pick, 207th overall in the 2023 draft. He'll turn 20 in January. And hey, Vladdy, we'll see you soon for that World Juniors in Ottawa. All right, coming in at number 50 on our organizational value rankings, another goalie. This one, another guest on Locked On Sens just this summer, Kevin Ridler, who's making the jump from the USHL to the NCAA.
Yeah, we had an awesome time chatting with Kevin. He's a really great guy. You got to see a little bit of his personality when he was mic'd up in the Sens dev camp. And yeah, he had a great year with the Dubuque Fighting Saints in the USHL. 39 games, 27-5-2 record. Like 27 wins, 7 losses all year. That's solid. His numbers, maybe he had a high offensive team that scored a lot of goals for him, because 286 and 902 is a little lower than you'd want with that kind of record. But Ross, he shined in the playoffs in 11 games, 1.69 goals against and a 934 save percentage, matching his season total of shutouts with 3. So he was certainly able to back his team up when it came to the playoffs.
And it's so great to see him getting a consistent stretch of playing games. He's been the backup over in Sweden and things like that at the World Juniors. It's just nice to see him get an extended stretch to be able to get in. He's an enormous human being, 6'6", 203 pounds already. And he's going to have a battle on his hands at the University of Omaha, Nebraska, because he's not going to be given the net there. They've got another young prospect in goal there, Slovak kid. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but it's going to be a battle for him to be able to get every start. And they're a team that maybe doesn't have the highest of expectations, but they're in the NCHC, so they're going to be playing in North Dakota. They're going to be playing these tough buildings. I think that's going to help him. He's moved up 5 spots from last year, where he came in at 55, and he was 58 the year before that. He was drafted in 2022. And again, when you're drafting goalies, you're not doing it for tomorrow. You're doing it for about a decade later. Like, even remember the 2021 draft? It was Wallstedt and Kosa. Both end up being first-round picks. Neither's played Wallsted's played 1 NHL game or 2. That's it. These are first-round picks, and Ridler went in the 5th round in 2022, 151st overall. So a lot of development left for Kevin Ridler, but I think that this is a good step for him to go to the NCAA, and we'll see what happens next. But certainly has some raw skill, and he's a super outgoing personality that we're rooting for on this show. So Kevin Ridler comes in at number 50 on our organizational value rankings. All right, we're into the top 50, and this is the top of the tier, the prospects tier, the first prospects tier that we have here. Hoyt Stanley at 49. He moves up from 52 the year before. He's a 4th-round pick last summer. Now, he was also the Senators' first pick. They didn't have a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd rounder, but he had a nice freshman year at Cornell.
Yeah, good transition from the BCHL to NCAA. In 35 games, Hoyt had 2 goals, 8 assists, 22 PIMs, but this is where I like it, Ross, a plus 16. So he was able to be comfortable and at least not get scored on too often and help his team score goals when he was on the ice. And I like Hoyt Stanley. I think, obviously, great dude. We've had him on the show a couple times. Go check out those interviews. But
salt of the earth guy.
Oh, big time. Yeah. 6'3", 201 pounds, right shot defenseman. So I think he's probably a guy, Ross, that I think is going to play 3 seasons in the NCAA. That wouldn't surprise me. Maybe even 4. It seems like he's a guy that choosing to go to university, especially a spot like Cornell, was a big decision for him. So I think he's just getting comfortable there, and he's got a lot more runway to go.
And they had a good season at Cornell last year, and they've got some high offensive players. And I think for him, it's just a matter of establishing himself on the top pair this year. That's what we're going to be watching for Hoyt. Have maybe a little bit more offensive production. while continuing to play solid defensively. And I know that he's not the kind of guy that's going to be roughing it up in the corner. So maybe we could cut those pims a little bit too, as he becomes stronger and a better, even better skater. He still skates well, but being able to angle guys off in the corner and maybe avoid a couple penalties that way. But overall, I think that you're looking at a very solid year-over-year progression for Hoyt Stanley, who was 52nd last year and now moves up to 49 on our Locked On Senators value rankings. All right, the next tier is AHL depth, and we're bringing in at number 48 a player who just acquired this offseason, signing a one-year ticket for league minimum, but a $350,000 paycheck at the AHL level. Hayden Hodgson comes in, and he's going to bring that grit as a middle six AHLer.
Yeah, I would even say bottom six, Ross. That the top six of Belleville's team is going to be very hard to crack. And for a guy that only had 16 points last year and 116 pims, I don't think he's going to even crack the second line in Belleville. It's going to be competitive there. This seems like a bit of a protect the investments type of move, right? Like I see a lot of similarities between Hayden Hodgson's and Scott Sabrin. So you need guys like that in the AHL. So I'm not dogging Hodgson's here. He has had a couple of games in the NHL as well, 7 total games with the Philadelphia Flyers throughout the years. But I think this is the type of guy where Ryan Bonus is looking at his Belleville roster and saying, all right, we lost a bit of grit last year, especially with Imama leaving. So let's try to get some of that back. And I think Hayden Hodgson will do a good job of bringing that element to the Belleville Sens.
He's also got a moment under his belt, right? It's about making a moment and an impression at training camp. And you might know his name from his preseason last year with the Ontario Reign, where he did not take any prisoners with the Stanley Cup champs, rocking Mark Stone behind the net in a preseason game. Stone was disgusted by the hit, calling him out in public afterwards. But I want my gritty players being a little bit greasy too. Shouldn't have been standing there. Should have kept your head up. Hayden Hodgson's coming through the trolley tracks. He's a 28-year-old from Windsor, Ontario, 6'2", 207 pounds, and he's going to be that Boko Imama replacement in Belleville. Okay, number 47 on our organizational value rankings. This, to me, is the Dylan Hetherington left shot replacement on the back end. Philip Roos, 6'4", 190 pounds. He's only 25 years old. Pilsy, he's got the range, but hasn't really been able to crack that next step to be an everyday NHLer. And now he's taken a 2-way contract to a new organization here after spending his entire North American career, 2 seasons split between Chicago and Rockford. Now he'll come over and try to make his impact in Belleville.
Yeah, I think that's a good comparison, Ross. This does seem like the Dylan Hetherington replacement, because Hetherington was kind of your more defensive leaning 2-way guy, and that's what Philip Roos seems to be like here, although
little less physical than Hetherington.
Yeah, probably. Well, I don't know, actually. He's got some decent size. Maybe it's 6'4", but only 190 pounds, so maybe he doesn't have that frame.
He's kind of like that lanky. It feels like everything I'm reading about him, he's more of an offensive-minded player. Like, he's going to be the guy that's going to be carrying the puck up the ice a fair bit on his pair. He's okay with handling the puck, but I just want to see him in a new scenery, right? He's just been over there for quite some time. He had a couple decent seasons before coming over in the Allsvenskan, and I know we're rewinding the clock a little bit here, but I think that this could be a solid AHL top 4 defenseman.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, every season, AHL or NHL, he's been in the minuses and plus minus. Now, that's not everything, but you'd like to see a little more stability there.
Where did he play?
I mean, yeah, playing in Chicago is not great, but so I'm not going to put a lot of blame on him there. But in the AHL, hopefully he can provide some depth stability on that back end.
I want to move on to 46 right away because these two were signed the same day. And Jeremy Davies, this is going to be a fun player to watch. Like, left shot defenseman, but offensively gifted for 35 points in 66 games, 12 goals from the back end. And this was different than the classic prototype for the Senators. Jeremy Davies is 5'11", 190, 27 years old, but still plays with grit, 79 penalty minutes last year with the Rochester Americans. So they know him well from within the division in the AHL last year. What are your thoughts on Jeremy Davies?
I like the signing, Ross. You mentioned he's able to score goals back-to-back years with the Rochester Americans in double-digit goals. He had 11 the year before, 35 total points. And this is a guy, Ross, I think we're going to see him playing in the top 4 of Belleville. And I think he's probably going to be a part of a second power play unit as well. So I think this is a good guy to bring in, 27 years old, has experience in the AHL, even a bit of NHL experience, and a Quebec guy. So you get a little francophone in the Belleville system as well.
Yeah, it's great. And I think you look at his career in the AHL, 126 points in 257 games. That's a ton of experience. Has played 23 games between Nashville and then 2 years ago got 1 game with the Buffalo Sabres. So I'm excited to see how it works out for Jeremy Davies. I think he could be a power play contributor as well in Belleville. He comes in making his debut on the organizational value rankings at number 46. Moving on to number 45, a player who could very well get NHL games again this year, has familiarity with head coach Travis Green at the NHL level from their time with the Vancouver Canucks, and was name dropped by Travis Green recently on a radio interview with the TSN 1200 crew as a guy who could play wing and center. So Matthew Highmore is versatile, but didn't do a whole heck of a lot, at least versus my expectations in Belleville. He came over Pilsy the year before, and he was like over a point per game in Springfield, and it just felt like the offensive game took a step back. Now, I say that, he still had 31 points in 43 games, but kind of felt like he left you wanting a little more, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, Ross, that's where I was going to take off from your point there. He was not very effective in Belleville's playoffs, which was unfortunate because the responsibility up front kind of fell to a lot of the inexperienced guys. Like Stephen Halliday was a guy that had to really pick up the slack when you were hoping a guy like Matthew Highmore would be able to do that. But these are the types of players you need to have in your organization, guys that are that have a pro mindset. They know what the grind of a full season is like. He's been in the NHL, the AHL for quite a while now. So he's someone that can be a leader on Belleville, and I think that's why he was brought back for another season.
And that's just what he was. Re-signed 1 year at $775,000, but he did play 7 games with the Ottawa Senators this past season and had 2 assists. So we'll see, because he got a big AHL salary as well.
Yep.
So there's going to be a bit of pressure on Matthew Highmore, I think, to take a step forward. Otherwise, he might be looking for a new organization after next year. Basically doubles down in our rankings. He was 44 last year, 45 this season. Coming in at number 44, one of the 17 players that has been on this list for all 5 years that we've done it. It's Cole Reinhardt, 6'1", 207 pounds, and got into 56 games last year in the AHL. The offensive production hasn't really taken a step forward, but I wonder how much of that is the coaching and Dave Bell and the organization telling him, look, if you're going to carve out a role in the NHL, it's going to be as a fourth line energy player. So maybe instead of going for that extra step towards the slot, let's maybe take a step towards our own zone and be ready in transition and play solid defensively while playing physical.
Yeah, I think that's fair, Ross. And I mean, even in junior, Cole Reinhardt wasn't a offensive powerhouse, right? He never had a year where he was a point per game guy, although
well, he was an overager at the year that he ended up getting drafted too, right? We're at the Brandon Wheat Kings.
Yeah, and I'm cutting him short here. In 56 games, he had 55 points, so I'm really getting it close there. But what I'm getting at is it's not like he had to drastically change his game when he went from junior to the AHL. I think Cole Reinhardt could be a guy that Oscar Pettersson could look at and be like, all right, I'm going to have to find a way to be hardworking forechecker that is going to carve out a pro role for me. And he's one of those guys that, yeah, the numbers might not pop out on the page, but ask the coaching staff about him and they see him as a very reliable guy that they want in their lineup. So I think it's going to be an interesting year for Cole Reinhardt. He's been in Belleville for a while now. He's played 225 games with the Belleville Senators.
Would you like a little trivia?
Yes, I love trivia.
Where does he rank in games played with Belleville?
Got to be number 1.
Nope. Igor Sokolov's number 1. You knew that.
I should have known that.
Yeah. He's 15 games away from tying Igor Sokolov. He's second.
So he's going to get there. He's going to get there.
And his next point will be his 100th AHL point.
Oh, there we go. I think he's going to hit those milestones, Ross.
Just as an aside, so funny, Michael Del Zotto had 27 points in 26 games in the AHL. That's neither here nor there, but I do feel so bad for Reinhardt that his one NHL game, he was in the penalty box when the game winner went in. That was tough. So hopefully he gets another opportunity because he brings a ton of speed. He certainly does. Last year, he was 47th on our list. The year before, he was 34 after he had a bump up in his second season in Belleville. 42nd in 2021 and number 60 right after being drafted as an overage pick a little bit later on. I think that it's impressive even that a 6th round pick, 181st overall, has given your organization that much production, even though it's in an AHL role. So, hey, good locker room guy, I'm sure, and he's back 1 year at $775K.
And just one more thing on Cole Reinhardt. I think it's important to note, too, that he's never spent any time in the ECHL. So that kind of goes to show that this is a guy that they want in Belleville and they value there.
And they put him in right after the draft. I know he's drafted as an overager, but just boom, right in. Number 43 on our organizational value rankings, Garrett Pilon. This is the first player on our AHL depth. And honestly, I think this is a big year for Garrett Pilon. He is the only guy of all the ones we talked about today to earn a 2-year contract. Yeah. Everyone else was 1 year. Peelsy wore a letter. He was producing. He was an awesome interview with us after the first round of the playoffs. And unlike Highmore and Reinhardt, who kind of disappeared in the playoffs, Garrett Pilon played his best hockey when it mattered most.
I'm a big, Ross, get the quote board out, Pilsy, big Peelsy guy. Pilsy is a Peelsy guy because Garrett Pilon was a big part of the reason why the Belleville Senators were able to have success in 62 games last year, 18 goals, 29 assists for 47 points. And as you mentioned, 5 points in 7 playoff games. I just felt like this guy brought so much confidence to the offensive side of the game in Belleville. When he was out there, you felt like he was giving opponents a tough time keeping handles on him. He's setting guys up. He's able to score as well. I feel like he had some big moment goals that throughout the season, if he doesn't step up in those moments, they're not able to win a handful of games. So Garrett Pilon, I'm glad not only, Ross, that they brought him back, but they give him a little extra and give him that second year on top of that contract.
Just under 6 feet tall. He's 26 years old. And an underrated part of the game, those right shot players, feels like there's less of them, at least in the Sens organization. So to have him in the mix here, he's up 7 spots. He was 50 on our list last year, 43rd this year. And I wonder how much him being able to step up in the playoffs was because he'd been there, done that. He won the Calder Cup with the Hershey Bears the year before and had a couple big goals during that playoff run. But certainly a guy like, of all the new guys last year, Highmore, Josh Curry, Garrett Pilon, among others, Pilon really was the guy who elevated and, to me, kind of distinguished himself from those other guys. So big Peelsy guys on this show. He comes in at number 43 on our organizational value rankings. Pilsy, we are already through 3 tiers already out of 10 on our list. So we're going to continue the countdown each and every day here on Locked On Senators. So stay tuned tomorrow where we will get back into the next tier of prospects. Now, why did we break up the prospect tiers, Pilsy? I think it's pretty fair. Like the ones who are below, it's like if they never make it, how can you say that they're better than an AHL player who's already established? And certain guys who we just spoke about, they already have NHL games under their belt.
Yeah, and that's the tough balance of prospects that have such a long runway to go versus guys that are already been there, done that, but they don't have much more potential to reach. That's where it's hard to kind of value it, but that's the way we went.
Pilsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts for me, Ross. You are very passionate about company jersey patches and where the C or A goes on a jersey. And most of the time I'm like, okay, Ross, it's not that big of a deal. Calm down. But when both of them are a problem, you end up with a jersey that almost ruins a beautiful jersey. The Washington Capitals announced they're bringing back this Screaming Eagle. Awesome. Love it. That's what Ovi started in. It looks great on him now. But with the, is that the company patch or the anniversary patch? Whatever patch they have on the left side, since the Screaming Eagle comes all the way up, they can't use that other side. So Alex Ovechkin's C is in the middle of his jersey, right under his chin. It is, Ross, I don't get this worked up about it, but it is downright offensive how bad that looks.
You know what's even worse than that? You see who the Toronto Maple Leafs just announced as their new helmet sponsor?
Yeah.
So now they have milk on their jerseys and Oreo on their helmet. Like they think Santa Claus is going to come to town or what?
Hey, I actually think bad take,
What?
but I actually think it's kind of cool, but doesn't matter.
No, that's an awful take.
Milk and cookies as a combo is an awful take.
No,
Oreos and milk.
Best duos, Ring of Honor coming soon.
Yeah, but I didn't want to get onto that one. What I'm saying is putting the C in the middle of the jersey is, you can't be doing that.
No, it's 25 to life, no parole.
Yes, right to jail.
Like Alex Ovechkin cannot break the NHL all-time goal scoring record wearing that jersey.
Yeah,
like,
we'll see.
Oh my goodness. All right. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Thank you so much for watching, listening, engaging with the show. We will be back tomorrow. We've got a Sens Central Citizen for you tomorrow, as well as our organizational value rankings. And we will continue on this week. We've got a very special guest. The hint is that whenever this guy had a milestone game, you knew something was coming that was going to be special. So we'll work our way to Friday. Thank you so much again for watching. That's Brandon Pillar. I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.